Welcome to Attainable Green. I'm Jess, and today we're going to talk about my Catasetum update for this summer. Now, this is part 4 of my Catasetum update, and it's about the rest of my plants potted in sphagnum moss. So these plants are a little bit behind coming out of dormancy from the rest of my Catasetums, so they are a little bit smaller. Most of the literature says to hold off watering your plants until they're 3 inches in leaf growth and 3 inches of roots. In my case, I decided to water them a little earlier, and right now they're all getting full waterings, even though they're not at the designated height or root length. I'm doing this because these plants are seedlings, and I noticed that the bulbs of these plants are getting a little too shriveled, and some of the leaves were coming out kind of crinkled and dehydrated. I decided to water early so that it can just get a little bit more hydration and so that they can grow stronger and healthier. So let's get started with the first plant. This one is the Cloecia Grace Dunn crossed with Catasetum tigrinum. Now this one has 4 bulbs and 1 new growth, and they both look really healthy, but they're kind of small. The next plant is the Catasetum Portagee star crossed with Catasetum tigrinum Wyche. Now this one is a sibling of one in the previous video, and it's coming out of dormancy pretty late. It has 2 bulbs and 1 new growth, and it barely has any roots, but I noticed that the leaves are coming out really clean. The next plant is the Catasetum upper echelon crossed with Catasetum Abalo. And this one has 2 bulbs and 1 new growth. The leaves are very clean, and there's a little bit of spotting from happy sap, but not too much. The next plant is the Catasetum Frilly Doris crossed with tigrinum. This one has 3 bulbs and 3 new growths. There is a little bit of spotting on the leaves, but it's not too much. Then the next plant is the Catasetum Burchette crossed with Catasetum Burchette. This one has 2 bulbs and 1 new growth, and the leaves look pretty clean. So the next Catasetum hybrid, I lost the tag for this, but I have an ID for it, and I'll probably just write it in the comments or in the description. But this one has 2 bulbs and 2 new growths, and they're just looking really healthy and really full. So the next 3 plants are fairly new to my collection, and they haven't really adjusted to my environment, so I kind of keep them a little bit separate. The first one is the cooperi. Now this plant was trying to bloom earlier in the spring, but the spike aborted because it was just too dry and it just didn't have enough energy. Later on, it got attacked by mealybugs, and as I was treating that, I decided that since the leaves were just not doing well anyway, I decided to cut them off and put it into kind of a early hibernation mode. So this plant is in complete dormancy now. It's not getting watered. It's just 3 bulbs that are completely leafless. And when I got this plant, it came from South America, so it was already out of season. And so by putting it in dormancy now, I'm hoping that it can last the rest of the summer season into fall and then start growing with the rest of the plants in the winter time. The next plant is the Catasetum planiceps, and this is a specimen size plant. Now, I got this one from Orchid Trail, and I was hoping that it was the Cloecia russelliana, but I think there was a mix-up with the tags or the ID of the plant, and so I have the Catasetum planiceps instead. Now, this one is a huge specimen size plant. I can't even count the number of bulbs or even the new growths. It's greater than 10, and it's just massive. When I got it, there was already 1 spike in bloom, and it kind of didn't do well in transport. So I didn't really get to enjoy the blooms, but I had enough of them to be able to ID them properly. The leaves on this plant have a little bit of burning and drying out, and I think I'm just not giving enough water to this plant. I just can't keep it hydrated enough. It's just very, very hungry and very, very thirsty. So I'm going to do my best to try to keep it in this size, but I know that maybe in the future or maybe at the end of the season, I may have to divide this one just so that I can take care of it better. Now the last plant is the Cloecia Rebecca Northen. This one has 4 to 5 old pseudobulbs and 2 new growths. And so far, it's just looking really good and really healthy. I noticed that some of the roots are kind of emerging from the bottom of the pot, and that's always a good sign. So I'm just really hoping that this plant just will do really well and look its best. So the Rebecca Northern is actually potted in a bark mix, and it's a little bit concerning for me because I know even with moss, it's drying out pretty fast. So by keeping it in bark, I'm just hoping that it stays hydrated enough that it can grow to its full potential. So that is how my entire Catasetum collection is doing. The ones in moss are holding up pretty well since I'm watering it every day or every other day. And they get 6 to 8 hours of sunlight. And all of these are still in my humidity tent because they're not as big as the ones in the PET and in the other previous video. But I think these ones are going to do pretty well. I think by having the plants in the humidity tent is keeping the plants from getting stressed, and so I'm not having a spider mite issue with it this year. Also, even in my humidity tent, I do have a couple of ants patrolling these plants just to harvest some of that happy sap from some of the plants. So I think that it's really controlling the pest pressure. So I'm not having as many problems as last year. But so far, it's still early in the season, and there's still lots of time for these plants to grow and to mature. And also, I'll give an update in the fall to see how those plants are doing, and if any of them are spiking or in bloom, I'll give updates on that as well. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel, Attainable Green, for all the latest updates. And hit the bell so you never miss an episode. Bye!